with that said, let's get started. So, as you all know, the out-of-the-box content that comes with Revit serves as a good starting point, and oftentimes can do the trick, right? On small jobs, yeah, we don't need anything special necessarily, right? We can whip it together pretty quickly. But anytime you need something more specific, and with the proper sizing or proper materials or, you know, different configurations and variations and whatnot, finding that content takes time, time that we may not always have, or creating that content, same thing, takes time, takes a specific set of knowledge and specific set of skills to put that together. And not everyone can do that. And the ones that can are usually pretty busy doing that. So today's webinar, we're going to show you our Casework Configurator utility and content pack, and how that could potentially save you and your team time looking for families and time building custom content, time that we don't always have. So today, I'm going to show you the Casework Configurator utility and the content that goes along with it. I'm going to show you how to get around in the interface, how to set it up, how to take advantage of the content that's there to build families to be used in your projects, how to customize it a bit, what happens if new families are needed, or if you don't like the naming conventions that have been put in place, how do we change that? And then for those of you that don't have your hands on this and would like to know more and to get your hands on a copy, I'll show you a little bit how to get it and where some additional resources are. And we're just going to jump right into it, do the demo. I don't like PowerPoints. So here's what we're going to do. Now, what'll happen if you go ahead and if you already have our CTC BIM suites, or if you go ahead and download a trial of our CTC BIM suites or looking to get Casework Configurator, you will get everything. It'll show up on your CTC productivity tab, and you'll get a CTC management tab. You'll have a trial, potentially a trial of everything at this point. We've bundled everything into a single installer. Casework Configurator will show up on your CTC productivity tab in these goldish colored tools or icons. And there are two buttons specifically for this utility. There's the Casework Configurator and the Casework Admin. The Configurator is what you use to build the families that you would like to use in your project using the parts that come along with the pack. The Admin utility lets you configure it and customize a little bit about the family, what some of the default sizes are supposed to be, what parameters the end users on your team will have access to when making decisions. So there's some setup that can be done if the the default installation doesn't meet your needs. So you're not stuck using what I'm about to show you. And I'll kind of show you how to get around some of that stuff and how to make some of those edits today. The first thing you'll notice, though, is when you click either of these buttons, and really, the first thing you'll notice is that you don't have content. It may look like you have content when you open the Casework Configurator tab, because you'll see some preview images and you'll get to go through the motions of setting something up. But at the end of the day, you don't have any content to load in. And we do that on purpose because you still have to buy the content. If you purchase this Casework Configurator, you have access to the content. You just need a license to be able to go get it. So in this case, I haven't even set it up yet for this particular version. To set it up, you've got your license, you're ready to go. You click the download content button. That'll bring you to our website, and you'll get to download the appropriate version of content that you are working with. If you don't intend on making any changes, yet you want this to be available to anyone in your firm, regardless of what version of Revit they are using, we have download links here for you, so you can just download the content, make it available. That way no one has to upgrade anything. It's the same pack of content for each version of Revit, and you can just get it configured and deployed for all versions. If you want to review it first, maybe you need to make some edits and some tweaks, you can download the latest version that you need, or the oldest version, make those tweaks, and then upgrade it moving forward, or, you know, however you see fit, right? Like there's some flexibility here. In my case, I was in Revit 22, I would download it here, and then you will get it in your zip folder. And of course, I don't have that open anymore. So it'll come into your downloads, just like this, and I've downloaded all the versions now. So you extract it, and then you copy paste it to the appropriate folder. Now the utility itself, as it's extracting, tells you where it's looking. So here's the folder path where I need to place all of this content. It's on the C drive behind the user profile for public, which means all users on that machine have access to it. And then we built some folders there for the stuff. All you need to do is make sure that that content folder, content 2022, is there. So once the download is, or the extraction is complete, like this, open the folder, copy this content 2022 folder, and place it, C drive, users, public, CTC software, Casework Configurator, and just overwrite that folder that's already here. This folder has the placeholders for everything, but it's empty, no content. The folder we're putting in has the content, has the placeholders. All the families are here now, right? So now I've got access to everything. So there is a little bit of setup. Now, and again, it doesn't have to be on the C drive. That's just the default location for it. You can change that at any time and, you know, save the files to the network. There's a database configuration file that you would also put on the network. It was that CCD file and these settings files. You just copy those into the content folders wherever you want them, on the R drive or the P drive or something along those lines, wherever you put it, and tell your tool to go find it. So you would just hit open, go find that database file, and you're good to go. In this case, I now need to close and reopen my Casework Configurator tools because now I have content. I want it to reload with my content visible. And just a simple close and reopen will do the trick once the content is in place. So what we get with this pack is we get a handful of things here. So we get the main Casework assembly. This is kind of the canned pre-built end result for an assembled piece of casework that can be used in a project right now. You know, whether it's base cabinet open, corner 3/4, or with apron, and you go on down the list. So these are all pre-assembled pieces that we can use right now. These other folders for interior configurations and access styles and face panels and pull hardware, these are all the parts or the supporting pieces that go into the assembled cabinet. So you can, it's not just a box, right? We can put double door, single door, sliding door, cubby style, open shelving, open drawers, you know, whatever, right? There's a lot of options to choose from here, as you'll see as you start reviewing some of this content. Now, I'm going to stop here. I'm not actually going to, we're going to take a step backwards and show you how to build something based on what we have at our disposal. And we'll come back and make some more additional customizations here. But I just wanted to show you how to get it set up first, right? So right now I'm set. I'm good. If you changed anything, you would make sure to save it. But I didn't change anything. So I really don't have to do anything at this point. So I can close this, and I'm going to go to this Revit file because I'm already to my view and ready to go. And I'm going to open up the Casework Configurator. Now, this utility is the end user facing part of the program that allows you to read that database that we configured or will configure a bit with the admin tool. And it'll give me access to the families that have been deemed configured or ready for use. And I have the option right now to choose from any of these families. These are effectively those assemblies that I was showing you. And based off what I pick here, I can now go through the other tabs in the interface here to finish it off or to put the supporting pieces in. So if I wanted to start with a base cabinet or a cart storage or a corner cabinet or a tall cabinet or some shelving, right? Magazine racks. There's a lot here to work with. Tall cabinet, wardrobe cabinet. So I'm going to start with something super simple, base cabinet, and you can double click it to keep going, or you can select and hit next. Either way, I'm a double click kind of guy. I guess you could say I've got an itchy trigger finger, so that's what I'm going to work with. And based off the base cabinet assembly that I chose, I now have specific supporting families that have been deemed accessible or available to a base cabinet. It's not everything that was in that cabinet interior configurations folder. It's only the ones that would be potentially used in a base cabinet, like double shelf, single shelf, double shelf with a center divider, right? So you get the idea, or some sliding trays, or maybe I don't want anything in the middle. So again, we've got options, right? So I'm gonna stick with the single shelf for now. Again, we'll keep it basic, we'll keep it simple. And then I have the access style, or what's the front gonna look like? Are we doing drawers? Are we doing doors? Are we doing drawers and doors? Are we doing variations of the drawer configuration? So we have options here, right? And you basically can choose exactly what you want. We have single doors, we've got double swing doors, we've got a drawer and two doors, two drawers, two doors. The list goes on. I'll do one drawer, one door. And then for the next step is what's the face? What's the panel type, basically? What kind of panel do I want? Do I just want a flush panel, or do I want some that has some depth to it, or a little bit of decoration in a sense? Is it a glass panel? Does it just have a nice little bull nose on it, or some type of panelization here? I'm just gonna stick with a stock flush panel for this. Then we choose our hardware. We'll go with pull style 3. And now we get into the guts. How big is it? Width, depth, height. What's my countertop thickness if I'm putting one in? Are there any offsets that need to be put into place, right? Toe kick in sizing. So I have some dimensional properties that need to be worked out before I can move on. So right now I've got a 24-inch base cabinet. Let's make this I can change the size of this however I want. There's some preset stuff built into the families. You can just browse through here and pick what you want. It's not going to change anything in the preview. This preview is just to let you know what this parameter is actually controlling in this case. So if you're curious about shelf thickness, click on it and it'll show you a preview. We call these the helper images. Toe kick height, toe kick depth, and depending on what parameter you pick, you may get a helper image to guide you along as to what you're working with here. Some don't have any, but that doesn't mean they can't. You can always create your own helper image and apply it, and I can show you kind of where that happens. But then we have a bunch of offsets and varying dimensional properties that can be worked with. So again, you got stuff built in for you depending on what you need. I'm happy with that now. I just wanted to change the width. I'm going to switch to graphics. And in here, depending on what's been set here, this would potentially be where you specify just a text parameter for the finish or a material. And there are other parameters that can be linked up for this, and it can be made available. And I'll show you how that kind of works too. Right now, it's just been configured to be just this. And these don't have any helper images here, because how do you provide a helper image on a material? So if you felt like it was necessary, go ahead and put one in. Then we have additional options for some other properties within the assembly, and these will vary depending on what assembly you started with. In this case, I'm doing a single door cabinet, base cabinet, so I can put a lock on it if I want. And if it needs to have a clearance, I can add that as well. So few options to choose from. And then we come down to the Finish tab. The Finish tab does two things. It helps you name the family and the type that you just made, and you can choose how you want that to work in a couple of different ways. And then it allows you to either load it into your project or save it as a new family. Now, there's a couple of different workflows that I've seen people use with this particular utility. The admin makes adjustments, configures it, adjusts properties, what have you, and then all users have access to the configurator, and they just build the cabinets that they need on the project when it's needed, kind of on demand. It is what it is, right? And the only families that are kind of in the library are the supporting families that help build the configurations. Now, the other way is to have your BIM team create those configurations and then save those as families to a library, and then make those families available to the user base. Instead of making the Casework Configurator utility available to everyone, we just make the completed content available. Maybe you've got 30 different 30 types that you have, and that's just what you use. You do a lot of, residential design. We got very similar base cabinets that we use in wall cabinets. Or you're doing healthcare, we're using the same cabinets there. Or multifamily housing, right? We're repeating the design frequently. There's not a whole lot of variation there potentially. So you could just make the configurations, save them out, and just reuse them over and over and over again. Either way works great. I know firms doing both, or both ways. And in some cases, they are actually doing both in the same scenario. So it really just depends on what your preference is. In this case, I have the ability to name it now. So base cabinet for the main assembly name is fine with me. It's the type name that needs some love, right? I don't need my type name to rehash the family name and then spell out exactly what it is. It's doing that because right now it's just pulling in the nested component family names and using that as the type name. We can change a lot of that, and I'll show you where all that happens. But until then, I can just change it here too. For example, I don't need the family name in the type name. And then maybe I want to abbreviate some stuff. So we're going to build up like a little code here. Maybe it's, instead of single shelf, it's SS. And for drawer one, door one, maybe it's D1, D1. And then flush panel is just F. And for the pole style, it's just PS3. And then your dimensions. And instead of doing that, I'm going to put an X in there, 30 by 36. And maybe that's good enough for you, right? Yes, this gets complicated and is hard to read if you don't know what it is, but I just abbreviated all the family names to do what I wanted to, and then put the dimensions at the end. If anything changes about this, maybe you build a little table that shows what it is, or maybe you've got a better naming convention that you guys use internally and you want to apply that. We can certainly do that, and I'll show you in a minute. So now I'm happy, we're good. I'll hit finish. The tool is building the family for me now and the type, and it's going to load it into my project and start the component command so that I can place it right away and make sure that what I did was right. And if I need to make some tweaks, I can either make the tweaks in the project or come back, reconfigure it, do it again, and update what's already there. All right, here we go. It's almost done. Now we're loading it in. All right. So, ready. The tool goes away. I get my little placement ability now, and we are going to throw this right here in the training room. Boom, there you have it. I don't need to save it. All right, there it is. And this is what it'll look like in plan. Base cabinet, SS, single shelf, door 1, drawer 1, flush panel, pull style 3 for the handles, 30 by 36. Exactly what I told it to do, which, splendid. Okay, now, and that's just the basic way. So now there's a couple of different ways to control what we get. The first one I want to show you is how the family name and the type name is being assembled. Okay, that happens from the user application or the configurator application in options. So within the options, we have the ability to utilize all of the available parameters within the families that are being used. So the access families, the face panels, the interior configurations, and the main assembled piece to name the family and its type name. So in this case, for the type name, it's using main casework assembly, the interior config, the access style, the face panel, the pull hardware, and the dimensions. I deleted the main family name or the assembly name from my type name. So I'm going to remove it from here. And now you can see this preview that lists down here. That's updated. That's awesome. But if I wanted to go ahead and pull in the seed name or a different name for these pieces here, I have to do a little bit of extra configurations on that. And I'll show you where that is in a second here. We're actually getting close to that. That's where I'm going next. But effectively, if you wanted to control how this is pulling and what it's pulling from, you just add, remove parameters from left to right, control the configurations however you want. Maybe you want the dimensions at the front of the name instead of at the back. Just you get some up, down arrows. You can move things around and control exactly what the naming convention needs to be. This gets saved to your settings file on the machine, and anybody that's on this machine will have these naming config settings. You can then copy paste this around so that onto other people's machines, or use build it into a bat routine, do an X copy or robo copy. Everybody will have it then. So you're not stuck reinventing the wheel on everybody's machine. Everyone can have the set standard here. But that's only one piece to the puzzle. It's still reading information from the families and the assemblies that we need to configure to make it 100% what we want it to be. And that all happens in the admin panel. So I'm going to close this and open up the Casework admin. So the admin window allows us to configure or edit all of the families that were in that content 2022 folder, or in this case now it's the 2023 folder because I switched versions. And I can control things like what the seed name is, or the how these are shown to the end user. I can control what parameters are available, what the defaults are going to be, and a number of different pieces here. So if I want to, let's just pick one here. Let's do the cabinet corner in this case, and I can double click it to open up my config window, or you can click this configure button here, and you'll get a window that looks like this. This is where you do the edits. Now, I can change the description of the family that's being used. I can also give it a seed name, like maybe library cabinet corner, that gets used when the families are built. Maybe that's not appropriate. Maybe it's corner cabinet library, or maybe it's just corner cabinet. And it doesn't matter if it's for a library or for a kitchen or for an office, right? We can use it anywhere. And maybe it's just CC, corner cabinet. BC for base cabinet. It's entirely up to you how you get the flexibility to build in your corporate standards here and your naming conventions that are used. You don't have to run through and rename every single one of the families that are in the libraries. You can, but you don't have to. And then down below here, we have a list of all of the parameters that are in the family itself. The ones that are highlighted in yellow are the ones that have been made available in the configurator interface. This is what I had access to as the end user when, or will have access to if I try to configure this corner cabinet for my project. Right. So in this case, I get the box width, the depth, the height, counter thickness, shelf thickness, a toe kick, and a width, or the toe kick properties and the width. Right now, that's all I get to modify. Everything else will wait until the appropriate time for population. In this case, I can always grab another one, like maybe maybe I need a lock on it, or maybe it needs a clearance for whatever reason. That's a hidden property. It will show in the project, but it won't show in the configurator. I can tell it to show and specify where I want it to be present. Is it dimensions? Is it graphics? Or is it options? Where should this appear? And maybe it's options. And now it'll appear in options. It'll highlight itself in yellow now. And when I go back to rebuild this, that's now going to be visible as an editable parameter to set up by default, or for the beginning of my family. And you can do this with all the parameters here for this. We can do it for the finishes and materials if we want to. We have the ability to lock and load specific settings that are intended to not be changed, right? We can just say these are the options. You either choose these options or you pick a different family. We can specify certain parameters and values to be used if we want to. We don't have to, but we can. And then once you kind of got the host configured, right? We can specify what the compatible supporting pieces are intended to be right here. So you can hit select. Another window will appear, and of course it pops open on my other monitor here. So let me drag it over here. And this will give me a list of all of the families in that folder that we downloaded that I can choose to make available when configuring this corner cabinet. Most of these, because it's such a unique family, most of these will need to be disabled. There's a couple that are specific for a corner shelf, and that's available already. And that's all I get in this case, are just these interior configuration options. And that's okay. Maybe I need more though. There is a way to bring in your own families or create additional families for this if you need to. And I'll explain how that works here in a second as well. So I've got my one family. I can do my kind of open corner cabinet, and now it's ready to be used. I can hit OK. It's configured. If I save this now, it updates my database, and now I can turn around and go build this particular family in my project. And you would do this, for any family that you want to use, right? And what I would recommend doing if you pick this up, or if you already have it, is review at the very least what's currently set to be available as a compatible supporting family here, right? So for this cart storage, what are my compatible components that can be used for a storage cart? We've got an empty one. I've got my side guides, and scroll down a little further. So you really want to make sure you know what's going to be present with this. I also have access to the styles, access styles. I can change what doors here, and a number of different sliding door, open swing door, no door, or open faced drawers, doors and drawers. So you've got some options here for controlling what's visible and what will be available during the configuration process. If you want to add more options, just check the box. Test it out before you show it off to the world. Make sure it does work the way you expect it to. But it's that simple. It's just making sure the box is checked. Next time you go open the app, you will have that two-door, two-drawer option. You can also change preview images for anything. So here, if depth uses this helper image and you don't like that helper image, or maybe apron height doesn't have one, maybe you want to add one. You can always create your own image files and then come back into the configuration window here and hit select and go browse to wherever that image file is stored. The tool comes with a bunch that you can choose from at any time. Like in here, there's a helper images folder in the content pack that you did. You can pick from one of these or add your own. There's a purge option here too. If there's helper images that you're not using, purge them out. There's no need to hold on to them all if you're never going to use them. So, but there are hundreds of helper images here at your disposal. And I believe all of these are in use to it's in some fashion. So, but you can go ahead and add your own at any time. You can change what's here. You don't have to use what we've provided. Change it anytime you want. And then I should also add that there's ability to make a parameter read only. So if you wanted to show that there are some horizontal and vertical offsets for the hardware, but it can't change, right? It's not a flexible piece here. You can show it, put it in the dimensional properties, but make it read only. They'll be present, they'll be visible, but they won't be able to touch it. It'll just be 3 and 4, because maybe that's something that needs to be known as part of the specifications of the piece of casework that's being used, but can't be changed. So that's one way to go about doing that. I'll go ahead and put these back as hidden so I don't mess up my database. And yeah, so you've got some options here for choosing the seed names. Now, I've only shown you editing of the main base or the main casework assemblies. You can also configure and edit all of the supporting pieces too. And this is where maybe changing some of the seed names for some of these families will be helpful. For example, I did, I believe, was it single shelf? Here. Single shelf isn't what I would want to use what I would typically want to call it. In my project, I just called it SS. So here I would label it SS and hit OK. And maybe for the center vertical, maybe it's SS underscore CV. Oops, not DV, CV. I don't know, right? Like it depends on what you think makes sense. You can totally settle this stuff up though, and fix any spelling mistakes that you may notice, because I just saw that one. Anyway, go ahead and set it up. Save your settings. Make sure that you get what you want. But you can go, I strongly recommend that you go through here and update these to be what you want. I don't remember what I did. I'll do D1 again. Because as you've seen, leaving these alone and not changing them makes them really, really long, the type names. And then it's just more work at the end of the day to get what you want. And in this one, let's do this. I'm going to do a couple little quick changes here. Do a full glass, and I'm going to do, where is it? 2-door. And we'll do this D1, D2. And again, you're going to have to make a few changes here, depending on what you want. PS3, and in this case, I'll do PS2. All right. And then make sure you save your database. Anytime you change anything with any of these configurations or any of the unique settings specific to that family, you got to save it. You don't have to save it after each change, but you're certainly going to want to do so before you close out of this window. Yeah, and then there aren't any good options there. You do have the ability to customize additional tabs if you'd like, in that the user would have access to. So we gave dimensions and graphics and options. Well, maybe materials is a big one, right? Maybe there are a number of different ways to control the materials. Maybe there's the cabinet material and finish. Maybe there's the panel material and finish. There's the glazing finish. There's maybe the hardware has its own finish parameters. And now we've got 5 or 6 different parameters that we've just added to the mix. So it might make sense to make your own grouping, make it visible, and give it a proper description if you want it to. And I need to learn how to spell or type. And we'll call it material parameters. Keep it simple, right? And then you have that. I could go back and configure it and add any material/finish property to that group, and it will then present itself in that fashion. So if I were to go back to my glass panel config, and here I have materials and finishes. So if I grab this and put it under materials, grab that also, they're visible, they're present. If your clearance material is something that's important, depending on what the clearance actually is, add that as well. Save your settings. And now when you go back to make some of these other families, you'll start to see some of this information available. So if I go back and let's say we do a little different one here. How about we do a wall hung cabinet? And you can see here's some of those changes I made. Single shelf is a SS. Single shelf center vertical is SS underscore CV. So you can see it's already incorporating some of those edits that I made. Now, doesn't always mean it's understandable for everyone. So maybe a quick little document explaining what some of these kind of codes are is required. But so let's go with this one, SSCV. And the access style, I want to be double swing wall door. And my face panel, I want to be the FG. And we'll go with PS2. And I'm just good with all this. Actually, I'll change the width. If I'm doing a double, I don't want it to be a 2 foot wide thing. Let's see what I have. I'll make it 4 foot. Everything else I'm fine with. And then you can see now, because I added a materials tab, I actually have a materials tab here now. That'll give me the glazing material and panel finish, of which I can tell it what I want it to be. And if the parameters aren't used, it's just not good. They won't, or they're not in the families that I chose in this case, they're not going to work. So, and that's okay. That just means then that I either need to go back and edit some content to link things up, or choose different parameters to be available. And now, based off some of the changes that I've made, you can see my name convention is different. I moved the dimensional properties to the front. It's incorporated some of my coded abbreviations here for single shelf center vertical. I didn't change this one, but then I did change full glass and the pull style too. So that's the name. So it's going to be wall hung cabinet with that as my type name. Not bad. I can always change this now too, or stop what I'm doing, remember what I configured, go find that family and change it so that I can get my fix. I'm not going to do that today. We'll just leave it alone. I'm going to hit finish and load it into my project. And while that's loading in and gearing up, I want to explain what to do if you get, or if you need to build new assemblies or new supporting families for your existing assemblies. For that to work, you need to utilize the same parameters that are already in the pack. Otherwise, we're going to have a conflict. Certain things aren't going to work the way they're supposed to. Certain families won't be available the way you expect them to be available, and it won't be a very user-friendly experience at that point. And there you have it. There's my wall hung cabinet. So what I recommend doing is working with the content you've been given as your starting point. So if I needed to make a new assembly, I would browse to the content folder and pick one of these that would provide me the proper starting point, or that's going to be close to what I need to create, if that's possible. If it's not, just grab one that you think will have all the parameters that you need and delete the geometry and kind of use it as your template, right? So if I just wanted to do another tall storage cabinet of sorts, I'll start with this guy. And, oh, how did I end up in, I'm sorry, I forgot that I changed versions. Go back to 22. Here we go. Tall storage cabinet. There, that's better. You just open the family. There are some of these parameters specifically are expected to be present by the tool itself. And really, it's the cabinet access style parameter here, the cabinet interior configuration parameter here. If those aren't, and I believe the pull style one and the other, I forget, slipping my mind now. But if those parameters aren't available, they won't be usable by the utility. It's not going to work out. So you want to make sure that you have these in use and working with the existing content pack. And if you're familiar with editing content, as long as it's interchangeable and you can change things in the dropdown, you don't get any error messages, it flexes okay, you're in good shape. Change the type name, and that's just the default. Usually it'll just be the family name. Make the changes that you need to make, do a save as, and just save it to the proper folder. Doesn't matter, you know, what it is really. It helps to put it in the right folder based off of what it is, because then it'll actually, organizationally, it makes sense. And just for fun, I'm just going to call this closed. I didn't technically make any changes here, but it's that simple. You open the family, you make your changes, you save it with a new name in the libraries that are already predefined and that Casework app is looking for. And then when you go to open the app the next time, you'll see it there. Storage cabinet closed, and it's not configured to work with anything. So now I can build my configurations, right? I did this based off the open one. The closed one should be very similar. So I can either open this up and match it, or there's this load existing configuration button here. I can use that and just say, you know what, match what the tall open cabinet's doing. So come back here, load existing. I don't know why it keeps all popping over there. But now I can go find tall storage cabinet open and include parameter image assignments. Okay, and it's gonna match those settings up. Whatever the other one was doing, we're now doing the same thing. Now I can go ahead and make any specific adjustments to this family to be the defaults for this particular family. Change my seed name, TS closed or whatever. My compatible families should have come along for the ride. They sure did. I can hit OK, hit OK. Now I'm done. It's configured. Save your settings, use it in the project. So there's a lot of, so basically what I'm getting at, you can pretty much build whatever family you need with what we've given you. If you can't, you can certainly make new families and get them configured so that they can be used with the existing content. Oops, I didn't mean to click configure. I meant to click save. And yeah, so really the possibilities are endless with this. If you know how to edit families, you can make whatever you want at this point. So that basically concludes it. I'm going to go ahead and just cap this off by showing where you can get your hands on it and some additional info on resources. To get your hands on a copy of the Casework Configurator, if you don't already have it, just go to our website, ctcsoftware.com, jump to our products page, and select Casework Configurator from the list. You'll get access to some release notes and information about the product, and go ahead and get a trial of it at this point if you'd like. And if you do already have it, and you want to learn more about it, or any of our other tools for that matter, just hit up our YouTube channel, YouTube/CTC Software, and just search for what you're looking for, whether it's Casework, Superdoor, another content utility, or any of our other tools. We've got buckets of videos up here to assist you as much as we can. And with that, I'm going to say thank you. I appreciate y'all. Look forward to talking to you guys every week. Thank you all for joining me, and look forward to seeing you next week when we talk about something else.